Julia sat in her office staring at the city through the big glass window. Tall buildings stood in silence as cars moved like tiny toys far below. Her phone buzzed on the desk, but she ignored it. Another meeting, another deal, another number to chase. This was her life every day. Busy, empty, quiet on the inside. Her friend Mia had texted 3 times already. "Come on, Julia, it's time to live a little. Stop working like a robot." She had even sent the name of a guy. Daniel. Single dad. Nice smile. Great heart. Blind date set for Friday night. Julia rolled her eyes the first time she read it. A blind date. Seriously. She hadn't gone on one of those since her 20s. And that did not end well. She still remembered the awkward laughs, the silence, the fake smiles. No thank you, she had thought. But then something strange happened. She kept thinking about it. All day. While signing papers. While sipping coffee. Even while driving home. The idea stayed like a soft voice in the back of her mind. Maybe it was time. Maybe it was okay to try again. Not for love, not for forever. Just for one evening. Just to see what it felt like to sit across from someone who wanted nothing from her but her time. She opened the message again. Friday at 7. Little Italian place downtown. Quiet. Not crowded. Nice food. Easy. She said yes before she could change her mind. On Friday she stood in front of her closet for almost an hour. Nothing looked right. Too formal. Too plain. Too flashy. She finally picked a simple blue dress. Soft material. Comfortable. Not trying too hard. Not giving up either. Her heart was beating fast as she stepped into the restaurant. A soft bell rang above the door. Warm lights hung from the ceiling like stars. The smell of garlic and fresh bread filled the air. She told the hostess she was meeting someone. The woman smiled and pointed to a small table near the window. Julia walked over slowly, but when she saw who was sitting there, she stopped. A man with kind eyes sat at the table. That must be Daniel. But he was not alone. Next to him sat a little girl. No older than 7. Dark hair in braids. Big curious eyes. Holding a small stuffed bunny in her arms. Julia blinked. Was this a mistake? Was he babysitting? Was this even the right table? Daniel stood up and smiled. "Hi, you must be Julia. I'm Daniel. This is my daughter Lily. I hope it's okay. I had no one to watch her tonight." Julia froze. She did not know what to say. A child on a blind date. This was not what she expected. Lily looked up at her. "Hi." Her voice was small but clear. She smiled and hugged the bunny tighter. Julia smiled back. A little nervous. A little unsure. She sat down slowly. The waiter brought menus and poured water. Daniel opened his. Julia pretended to read hers. But she could feel Lily's eyes on her. The little girl was quiet. Just watching. Like she was trying to figure out a puzzle. Daniel spoke gently. "I know this is not normal. I don't usually bring her to things like this. But I really didn't want to cancel." And she promised to be on her best behavior. Julia nodded. "It's okay. Really." She looked at Lily again. There was something soft about the child. Something open. Dinner started slowly. Polite words. Safe topics. Julia talked about her work a little. Daniel talked about his job too. He was a teacher at a local school. Math and science. He loved working with kids. Lily sat quietly between them, drawing on a napkin with a purple crayon she had in her tiny bag. Every now and then she would glance at Julia, then quickly look away. Julia found herself relaxing. The food helped. Warm bread and creamy pasta. She even laughed once when Daniel told a silly story about one of his students. Then Lily spoke. Her voice was calm. "Are you a princess?" Julia blinked. "What?" Lily pointed to her dress. "It looks like the ones in my books. You look like a princess." Julia smiled wider than she had in days. "Thank you. That's very sweet." Lily smiled too. Then she reached out and touched Julia's hand gently. Her little fingers were warm. Daniel watched quietly, not saying anything, just observing. Julia looked at the child. And in that moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in years. She didn't know what it was yet, but it was there. Soft, quiet, waiting. And the night had only just begun. Julia sat at the table trying to act normal, but her thoughts were racing. She was still trying to understand why she was sitting on a blind date with a man and his daughter. This was not what she expected when she said yes to dinner. But something in Daniel's eyes, something in Lily's quiet smile made her stay. Lily was still drawing on her napkin now using a blue crayon. She didn't speak much, but she kept looking up at Julia like she was trying to learn her face. Daniel seemed calm, almost too calm. He asked Julia how her week had been. She answered with a soft voice saying work had been busy. She didn't know what else to say. She didn't want to scare him off or ask the wrong thing. The truth was she hadn't been on a real date in years. Daniel took a sip of water and looked at Lily. He smiled, then turned to Julia and said she's usually shy around new people. But I can already tell she likes you. Julia looked at the little girl again. Lily was now drawing 3 stick figures. One tall with long hair, one tall with short hair, and one small with 2 braids. Julia felt something strange in her chest. Was that supposed to be them? The waiter came and asked if they were ready to order. Julia picked something simple, just pasta and salad. Daniel ordered the same. Lily pointed to a picture of pizza on the kids' menu. They all nodded and the waiter walked away. There was a small silence after that. Not heavy, just quiet. Lily was humming softly to herself as she colored the stick figure family. Julia asked how long Daniel had been a single dad. He paused, then said his wife passed away 3 years ago. Car accident. It happened so fast. One moment she was here, the next she was gone. Julia didn't know what to say. Her mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. Daniel looked down at the table and said, "It's okay. You don't have to say anything. I've learned to talk about it without falling apart. Most days anyway." Lily reached out and touched her dad's hand. He smiled at her. A tired kind of smile. Julia saw the love in that moment and it made her chest feel heavy. She asked Lily what she liked to do. Lily shrugged and said, "I like painting and reading and my bunny." She held up the stuffed bunny for Julia to see. "His name is Marshmallow." Julia laughed a little. "That's a cute name." Lily smiled and nodded. "He's soft and brave. He goes everywhere with me." Julia said, "I used to have a teddy bear named Pickle. He wore a tiny red jacket. I took him everywhere too." Lily giggled. "Pickle. That's funny." Daniel looked surprised. "That's the first time I've heard her laugh today. You must be magic." Julia felt warm inside. She didn't know why. She barely knew these 2 people. But something about them felt familiar. The food arrived and the table filled with new smells. Garlic, tomato, cheese. They all started eating quietly at first. Julia took small bites, her hands still a little shaky from nerves. Daniel asked about her job. She said she worked in tech, that she ran a company that helped other businesses grow online. He nodded. "That sounds important." She shrugged. "Keeps me busy." Lily dropped a piece of crust and reached down to pick it up. When she came back up, she looked at Julia again. "Do you have any kids?" Julia froze. She wasn't expecting that question. "No," she said quietly. "I don't." "Do you want some?" Lily asked without blinking. Daniel looked up quickly. "Lily," he said in a gentle warning voice. But Julia raised a hand. "It's okay." She looked at Lily and said, "I used to want kids. Then life happened. Now I'm not sure anymore." Lily nodded like she understood. She went back to eating her pizza. Daniel looked at Julia. His eyes soft again. "She asks everyone that. Not to be rude. She just misses the idea of a family." Julia looked at the little girl. She looked so small, so hopeful, so honest. And for a moment, Julia didn't feel awkward anymore. She felt something else. She felt curious. She wanted to know more. They kept eating and talking. Time moved slowly but in a good way. Lily showed Julia her drawing again. The stick figures now had names written above them. Daddy, me, and a third one, just a question mark. Julia pointed at it. "Who's that?" Lily smiled and said, "I don't know yet, but maybe it's you." Julia's breath caught in her throat. She didn't know what to say. Daniel looked like he wanted to say something, but he stayed quiet. And Julia, well, she just sat there, feeling something new grow quietly inside her. Julia sat at the table longer than she planned. Time seemed to slow down, like the world outside had paused. The noise of the restaurant faded. All she could hear was Lily's tiny voice and Daniel's calm laugh. She had not felt this kind of peace in a long time. Lily had moved her chair closer. She now sat right beside Julia. Their elbows touched lightly. Lily leaned in to show her new drawings on the napkin. One had 3 stick figures standing under a rainbow, all of them smiling. Julia felt her throat tighten. "That's beautiful," she said. "You're really good at drawing." Lily grinned and whispered, "Thanks. I draw what I feel." Daniel watched them from across the table, his eyes full of something Julia couldn't name. Pride, hope, maybe fear too. Julia looked at him. "Does she always draw families?" Daniel nodded slowly. "Almost every day. Sometimes she adds people. Sometimes she erases them. It depends how she feels." Lily looked up at Julia again. "Do you like ice cream?" Julia smiled. "I love it. Strawberry is my favorite." "Me too," Lily said. "That means we're the same." Julia laughed softly. "Maybe we are." The waiter came and took their plates. They ordered one small dessert to share. Vanilla ice cream with strawberries and warm chocolate on top. As they waited, Lily leaned her head on Julia's arm. Her small voice asked, "Do you get lonely sometimes?" Julia blinked. The question was so gentle, so unexpected. "Yes," she said softly. "I do." Lily nodded again. "Me too. But not tonight." Julia looked down at her. "Neither do I." The ice cream arrived. Lily fed a spoonful to her dad, then offered one to Julia. Julia laughed but opened her mouth. The moment felt silly and sweet, something she didn't know she had missed. After dessert, Lily pulled out a small photo from her tiny backpack. It was old and a little bent. A picture of her and Daniel, and a woman with kind eyes. "That's my mommy," Lily said. "She went to heaven." Julia stared at the photo. The woman looked peaceful. She felt her chest ache. "I'm sorry," she said. "Your mommy looks really nice." "She was," Lily said quietly. "I still talk to her sometimes when it's quiet." Julia didn't know what to say. She nodded and held Lily's hand. It was small and warm. Didn't let go. Daniel looked down. He cleared his throat. "We don't usually talk about her on the first meeting. But Lily's been different tonight." Julia looked at him. "How do you mean?" He said she usually hides behind her bunny. Doesn't talk much. Doesn't trust new people. But with you, it's like she remembers something she forgot. Julia felt a chill on her arms. She didn't know what it meant, but something in her heart told her to stay, to keep listening, to be here fully. Lily asked, "Do you think people meet for a reason?" Julia thought for a second. "Maybe they do." Lily smiled again. "I think Mommy sent you." Julia froze. She looked at the little girl, then at Daniel. He was silent, his eyes shiny. The table went quiet. Not the awkward kind, the deep kind, the kind that holds more than words. After a few seconds, Daniel stood up and stretched. "It's getting late. We should head home." Lily nodded but didn't move. She was still holding Julia's hand. Julia looked at her and asked, "Can I walk you both to your car?" Daniel smiled. "Of course." They stepped out into the cool night air. The city lights were glowing. The wind was soft. Lily walked between them, holding both their hands now. They reached Daniel's car. He opened the back door for Lily, but she didn't get in right away. She turned to Julia and said, "Can I ask you something?" "Anything," Julia replied. Lily looked up, her voice quiet, her eyes wide. "Are you my new mommy?" Julia froze. Her heart stopped for just a moment. The air felt still. She didn't know what to say. Daniel opened his mouth but no sound came out. He looked at Julia, then at Lily, then back at Julia. Lily waited, her little hand still wrapped around Julia's. Julia knelt down slowly. She looked into the girl's eyes. She was about to speak, but she had no words. She didn't know if she should answer with her heart or her fear, so she said nothing, just held Lily's hand a little tighter, and something inside her, something deep and quiet, started to wake up. Julia could not sleep that night. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling while the room stayed quiet and dark. No emails, no phone calls, no meetings, just silence. And inside the silence was a voice, tiny and clear. "Are you my new mommy?" Those words would not leave her mind. They echoed again and again like a soft bell in her heart. She closed her eyes, but all she could see was Lily's little face. Hopeful, gentle, brave. The next morning she sat at her kitchen table holding a cup of coffee. It had gone cold. She had not touched it. She just kept thinking about what happened. The blind date, the drawings, the napkin rainbow, the photo of Lily's mom, the way Daniel looked at her but said nothing. She had not planned for any of this. Not even a little. She had gone to dinner expecting awkward smiles and maybe a boring story. She had not expected Lily. She had not expected her own heart to remember something it had buried long ago. Julia stood up and walked to her bedroom. She opened the bottom drawer of her nightstand. Inside was a small wooden box. She had not opened it in years. Her fingers shook a little as she lifted the lid. Inside were old photos, tiny socks, a hospital bracelet with her name and a date that never faded from her memory. She picked up one picture. It was of her and a man, smiling, standing next to a baby crib. The crib was empty, her eyes filled with tears. Years ago, before the long meetings, before the company, before the walls she built, she had been engaged. She had been pregnant. She had dreamed of holding her child, of singing lullabies, of being someone's mommy. But life had other plans. A phone call, a rush to the hospital, doctors saying sorry, a nursery that stayed quiet. The man she loved had left not long after. He could not handle the grief. Neither could she, so she buried it. All of it. She became strong, busy, successful, and alone, until last night. Until Lily. She wiped her tears and placed the photo back in the box. She closed the drawer and stood still for a moment. Then her phone buzzed. It was a message from Daniel. "Thank you for last night. Lily has not stopped talking about you. No pressure at all. But if you ever want to see her again, we'd both be happy." Julia stared at the message. Her hands did not move. Her heart did. She thought for a long time, then slowly typed back, "I'd like that." The next afternoon she met them at a small park. Lily ran to her with open arms. Julia knelt down and hugged her tight. The little girl smelled like strawberries and sunshine. "You came," Lily whispered. "I was scared you wouldn't." "I'm here," Julia said. "I'm really here." Daniel smiled from the bench. He looked relaxed. More relaxed than last night. They all sat on the grass under a tree. Lily played with her bunny. Julia and Daniel talked softly. Daniel told her more about his wife. Her name was Rachel. She loved sunflowers and hated pickles. She was funny and loud and loved being a mom more than anything in the world. Julia listened quietly, her hands folded in her lap. Daniel said she died on the way home from work. It was raining. A truck lost control. Rachel didn't make it. Lily was only 4. Julia felt the pain in every word. But there was no bitterness in Daniel's voice. Only love. Only memory. He said, "I didn't think I'd meet someone like you. I wasn't looking. But Lily saw something. And maybe I did too." Julia looked at him. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. She looked at Lily. The child was now placing tiny flowers in the grass, making a circle around her bunny. Julia said softly, "I lost a child too. A long time ago." Daniel looked surprised. "You never said." "I don't talk about it," she said. "Not with anyone." She told him about the baby, the nursery, the heartbreak, the man who left, the silence that stayed for years. Daniel reached out and gently touched her hand. "I'm so sorry," he said. Julia nodded. But in that moment, the pain felt lighter. Not gone, but shared. Lily came back holding 2 flowers. One yellow, one white. This is for you, she said, handing the yellow one to Julia. And this one is for your baby in heaven. Julia's lips trembled. How did she know? How did this little girl understand so much? She hugged Lily, tight, so tight. And in that moment, under the tree, in the middle of a quiet park, Julia felt something she had not felt in years. She felt seen. She felt needed. She felt like maybe, just maybe, she was not broken anymore. The sky turned orange as the sun began to fall behind the trees. Shadows grew longer on the grass where Lily danced in circles with her bunny. Julia sat on the bench beside Daniel, her hands resting on her knees. She watched the little girl spin and laugh, her small voice full of light. Daniel looked at Julia and smiled. She loves the park. She says it's where the sky feels closer to heaven. Julia nodded softly. I can feel that too. There was a long quiet between them. Not heavy, not awkward, just still. Daniel asked, "How are you feeling?" Julia looked at him. "I'm not sure. A little scared. A little full. Like something is waking up and I don't know what it is yet." He nodded. "That's fair. I feel that too." They watched Lily pick dandelions and blow the seeds into the wind. She chased them, laughing like they were tiny stars falling from the sky. Julia said, "I didn't know I could feel this way again. I thought that part of me was gone." Daniel looked at her. "It's not gone. It's waiting. It just needed someone to knock on the door." Julia smiled. "Maybe Lily knocked louder than most." He laughed. "She always does." Lily ran over, holding two sticks like wands. "One for you," she said, handing one to Julia. "And one for Daddy. Now we're magic." Julia held the stick in her hand and twirled it gently. "What kind of magic do we have?" Lily looked up. "The kind that fixes hearts." Julia's breath caught in her chest again. This little girl kept saying the exact things she didn't know she needed to hear. Daniel said, "We should get going. Dinner time soon. Bath, bedtime story. She runs the schedule around here." Lily giggled and nodded. "Bunny says it's almost 7. Julia stood up slowly. Her legs felt heavy. She didn't want the day to end. They walked together toward the car. Lily skipping ahead. The sky now soft pink and purple. Birds flying in small groups above them. They reached the parking lot. Daniel unlocked the car and opened the door for Lily. She climbed in and buckled her seatbelt all by herself. Julia stood next to the car, feeling unsure. Should she say goodbye? Should she walk away? Should she ask to see them again? Or wait and hope? Lily rolled down the window, her eyes serious now, her voice quiet. "Will I see you again?" Julia took a deep breath. "I hope so." Lily looked at Daniel. "Can she come to my play next week? I'm a sunflower." Daniel looked at Julia. "Would you like to come? No pressure. Just if you want." Julia nodded slowly. "I think I'd really like that." Lily smiled wide. "Hey, I'll save you a seat." Julia leaned in and kissed Lily's forehead. The little girl closed her eyes and hugged her bunny tight. Daniel walked Julia to her car. The air between them full of something they both felt but didn't name. He said, "You don't have to decide anything right now. You don't owe us anything. But I want you to know." You made her smile in a way I haven't seen in a long time. Julia looked down, tears building in her eyes again. "I didn't plan for this. I really didn't. But I think your daughter is changing something in me." He nodded. "She has a way of doing that." Julia looked at him. "And you've been so patient, so gentle. Most men would have walked away by now." Daniel smiled. "I've lost before. I'm not in a rush. I just want something real, even if it takes time." Julia opened her car door and sat down. She looked at him one last time before closing it. "I'll see you at the play. And maybe sooner." He nodded. "Drive safe." She started the engine and pulled away. But her eyes kept checking the rearview mirror, watching them grow smaller in the distance. Her heart felt full and fragile all at once. She hadn't just gone on a blind date. She had walked into something unexpected. Something soft and strong. Something real. That night at home, she didn't go straight to work emails. She didn't scroll through her phone. She sat on her couch with a blanket around her shoulders. She held the yellow flower Lily had given her earlier, and she cried. Not because she was sad, not because she was broken, but because for the first time in years, she was beginning to believe again. She whispered to the empty room, "I think I'm ready," and in her heart, she hoped someone out there was listening. Julia woke up before the sun. The sky was still dark and quiet. Her room was calm, but inside her chest something was moving. Something soft, something strong. A feeling she could not name but did not want to ignore. She sat by the window with a warm blanket over her shoulders, holding a cup of tea in her hands, her fingers still remembering the small hand that held hers at the park. Her ears still holding the question, "Are you my new mommy?" She had not stopped thinking about it since that day. Not because it scared her, but because it felt too big too fast. And still, too right to ignore. At work she could not focus. Her mind kept drifting. Spreadsheets became sunflower drawings. Emails turned into soft voices. Her calendar reminded her of meetings. But her heart reminded her of Lily. She looked at the flower Lily had given her. It was pressed between two books on her desk. Delicate, but still bright, still alive. That evening she stood in front of her closet again, just like before the first date. But this time the question was different. She was not asking what to wear. She was asking who she wanted to be. She picked a soft yellow sweater. It reminded her of sunlight, of Lily's play, of the hope she was beginning to feel again. She got into her car and started driving. She did not call first. She did not send a message. She just followed what her heart told her to do. The streets were quiet as the sun began to set. Shadows stretched across the sidewalk. Lights turned on in windows. Families began to gather inside for dinner. And Julia, she was driving toward something she never thought she'd want again. She pulled up in front of Daniel's house. Her hands were shaking just a little. She stepped out of the car and walked to the door. She paused, breathed in, then knocked gently. The door opened slowly. Daniel stood there in a soft gray shirt, his eyes surprised but kind. "Julia." He said her name like it was both a question and a welcome. She smiled. I hope it's not too late." "Never," he said. "Come in." She stepped inside and the warm smell of dinner filled the air. Something with garlic and tomatoes. Lily's laughter came from the hallway. She was dancing in socks, holding her bunny and wearing a paper crown. When she saw Julia, she froze. Her eyes grew wide. Then her face lit up like sunshine. "You came," she shouted. "You really came." Julia knelt down and held out her arms. Lily ran into them without a second thought. Her little arms wrapped tight around Julia's neck. "I missed you," she whispered. "I asked Bunny every night if you would come back." Julia pulled her close. "I missed you too. I wanted to come back sooner, but I had to listen to my heart first." Lily pulled back just enough to look at her. "What did it say?" It said, "Yes." Daniel watched them from the doorway, his eyes full of quiet emotion. He said nothing. He didn't need to. Later they sat around the dinner table. Lily told stories about her school play. She held Julia's hand the whole time. Daniel poured water into glasses and passed bread to them both. The room felt full, not just with food, but with something new, something warm and honest and whole. After dinner, Lily went to her room to get ready for bed. Julia helped her pick pajamas and braid her hair. She tucked Bunny in beside her and kissed her on the forehead. "Will you be here tomorrow?" Lily asked quietly. "I can be," Julia said. "If you want me to." Lily nodded. "I do." Downstairs, Daniel stood in the kitchen cleaning up plates. Julia walked in slowly. He looked at her. Their eyes met. She said, "I didn't expect this. Any of it. But I want to see where it goes." He stepped closer. "Me too. I'm not in a rush. We can take it slow. But I want you to know, you've already brought something back into this house. Into her heart. Into mine." Julia looked down, then up again. "I never thought I'd be ready. But maybe life knew what I needed before I did." They stood in silence for a moment. Not awkward. Not unsure. just present. Daniel said, "Would you like to stay for story time?" Julia smiled. "Yes, I'd love that." They walked up the stairs together, not just as two people who met on a blind date, but as something more, something beginning. Inside Lily's room, the little girl was already holding a book. She patted the space beside her. "Come on," she said. "We read together now, like a real family." Julia climbed into the bed beside her. Daniel sat on the other side, and under the soft light of a small lamp, the three of them began a new chapter, together,